Donald Trump assumes power again in Washington, D.C. So, what will this new era bring for the nation and the world? I'm Veronica Dudo. Let's find out.
This is In America Today from the Ticker News Studios in New York City.
A tide of change. That's how Donald Trump described his vision for the United States during his second inaugural address on Monday as he became the 47th president of the United States. Speaking from the Capitol Rotunda due to extreme cold, Trump struck an optimistic tone, declaring that America's decline is over and promising a bold restoration of the nation's sovereignty, prosperity, and strength. His speech touched on unity, justice reform, and ambitious plans for his first day in office. For more, I'm joined by Keith Nahigian, the president of Nahigian Strategies. Thanks so much for your time today.
Of course, it's been a long journey to get to here.
Now, Ronald Reagan was the first president, or the last president to be sworn in inside the Capitol Rotunda. It provided a backdrop to Trump's second term now, which of course comes after 2 assassination attempts and legal battles. What are your top line thoughts from the ceremony?
It was unusual to be inside. As a person that's just walked through the wind, you can see why they canceled it and moved it inside. It would have been horrendous, but it was really a great speech. You can see packing that many people in. It's also unusual, as you mentioned, having a president sign in or take the oath of office that has already been president. You feel a sense that there's a pace and a clock that is at a whole different level on this particular administration.
Now, of course, we listened to his bold new agenda, which falls very much against some of the people that were also sharing that stage with him. Of course, notably Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, even Barack Obama. What aspects of his speech stood out to you?
Just the speed in which he wants to implement things. The voters, as we have talked about throughout this cycle, really want the economy moving. They want national security, and they really want a secure border. They want to get rid of crime in the cities. And you get a sense that he was previewing his executive orders that he was going to step off the stage and sign later today to quickly implement through executive order as quick as possible some of those things. But also, I think he laid out a vision. He had the cabinet there. They hope to be confirmed in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then he'll have a full slate of the executive branch to move as quickly as possible. And obviously, he was calling on Congress to get moving as well, passing his agenda. So all the deal makers were in that room, and we'll see how fast they can move.
Now, of course, Trump referenced his near-death experiences during not only the campaign, but also he touched upon those from his speech today. What do you think was really resonating with the American public in watching these events unfold today, of course, in a different way than we have before when it's usually outside?
Yeah, I think he has a different tone since that crazy day in Pennsylvania and also in West Palm. I feel like he feels like there's a weight of a purpose of why he's on this planet. So he just has a whole different demeaning about him. And I think he's very focused on accomplishing his goals. Like I said, having a person come in to be sworn in that's already been president and has learned from things in the past, I think you'll find it's going to be very, very fast. Implementing a lot of things that maybe on a previous administration would have taken 6 months to a year. I think 3 to 4 months, you'll see significant change.
Now, of course, the president outlined plans to reverse several Biden-era policies. Which of those actions do you see having the most immediate impact, and why?
Whenever a president declares an emergency, declaring an emergency on the southern border was probably priority number one. A lot of the stuff that Congress and others have been waiting on for the last 3 years could have been done with it's in the Constitution that the President of the United States can seal the border if there's a threat. And that's what he's doing today. The other areas I thought were really interesting is in the past, there was always pushback on declaring the drug cartels in Mexico as a terrorist organization because they're in a sovereign country, and that's always been a line that wasn't crossed. But I think you saw no line today. He was very bold, and that's one of the executive actions is declaring them a terrorist organization, which means anything and anything can be done to squeeze and eliminate their operation from killing Americans.
With a mandate from both the Electoral College and the popular vote, how will this broader support influence Trump's policies, priorities, and of course, public perception moving forward?
I think when you compare to 8 years ago, the silence in this town of the opposition, there doesn't seem to be an opposition organized. The messaging, as we've talked about throughout the campaign, was a miss on the Democrat side. They are having a hard time trying to figure out where they want to go from here, who's going to run their party, their executive director or their chairperson that they're trying to elect. I think they have a messaging problem, and that's why there isn't a clear resistance. That will be formulated in the coming years, but it's very unusual on day one not to feel that. And I can tell you from being in Washington the last couple of weeks and since the election, there really doesn't seem to be that opposition, whether to the cabinet members, whether to these initial offerings, and then attending the executive or the swearing in today. I think you see a lot of participation on both sides of the aisle. I think there's a general sense that people want to work together. They don't want the divisiveness anymore, and they want to work together and agree on anything that's a common goal and get it done as fast as possible. I think that's the message that the general public sent both parties, to stop talking and start acting immediately.
With about a minute left, given the significant challenges of the 2024 election cycle, how do you think Trump's presidency might be remembered historically, and what are the key moments that might define it?
I think just projecting strength around the world, the other countries and good and bad countries respect America's leadership. I think there's been a little bit of a void in that space. I think just the presence of we talked a little bit about throughout this campaign, the kind of absence of communication from the Biden team communicating with the general public. I think people are going to see an active president every day, which we kind of haven't seen for the last several years. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest changes. I think internationally, it'll be big. I think economically, there'll be quite a bit of things that will spur the economy to get moving. And I think they have the opportunity on both sides of the aisle to actually address a lot of the big issues that they haven't addressed in the past, whether it's national debt, big things, Medicare, Social Security, stuff that both parties have punted for 30 years. I think there's an opportunity in a détente to actually tackle the big, hard things. And I think that's going to be maybe one of his legacies going forward.
Keith, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for everything.
This is Ticker. We'll be right back.